Hey folks, April Reigne here, doing my first ever collaboration with the mystical and magnificent Suit Yourself. Thanks, Suit, for doing this with me.
G'day, April. Very nice to meet you.
So this story just came out June 27th, 2017.
Yeah, just came out. Sorry about that, April. If your messages weren't marked as spam on YouTube, I would have gotten this message earlier. Thanks, YouTube.
Google must delete search results worldwide, Supreme Court of Canada rules.
Interesting article.
Now, there are a few problems with this, but let's go ahead and get started and find out what's really going on.
Take it away, April.
The Supreme Court of Canada ruled against Google on Wednesday in a closely watched intellectual property case over whether judges can apply their own country's laws to all of the Internet.
Interesting. I've got nothing really more to add. I'll just sit back and listen to your voice.
In a 7-2 decision, the court agreed a British Columbia judge had the power to issue an injunction forcing Google to scrub search results about pirated products, not just in Canada, but everywhere else in the world, too.
Hold on a minute. That would mean... No, you continue. I don't want to spoil it.
Well, based on that ludicrous theory, they not only made every country's Supreme Court an almighty global entity, but also one that has no standing when it comes to its own country's laws. Talk about an oxymoron.
Bingo.
Those siding with Google, including civil liberties groups, had warned that allowing the injunction would harm free speech, setting a precedent to let any judge anywhere order a global ban on what appears on search engines.
That's right. Any judge, anywhere around the world, can order a global ban. I don't think I can see any problems happening with this.
The Canadian Supreme Court, however, downplayed this objection and called Google's fears theoretical. Now, here in the United States, the First Amendment not only recognizes the right of free speech, but also prohibits those in government from infringing upon various fundamental rights. Canada doesn't acknowledge such rights, nor do a number of other countries. This is a problem, especially for United States citizens.
Interesting. So because Australia doesn't have the American First Amendment, if we were to rule globally, we don't acknowledge that amendment. Interesting. Can see how global law could be a fucking issue.
This is not an order to remove speech that, on its face, engages freedom of expression values. It is an order to de-index websites that are in violation of several court orders.
We have not, to date, accepted that freedom of expression requires the facilitation of the unlawful sale of goods,
wrote Judge Rosalie Abella. The facts of the case involved EQSTEC Solutions, a maker of industrial networking gear that sought to stop a rival misusing its trademarks online. In the process, EQSTEC sought and won an injunction forcing Google to remove search results for the rival, not just in Canada, but also worldwide.
That is some fucking scary shit. Worldwide. Are you kidding me?
This is definitely setting a precedence that the Supreme Court, Canada's Supreme Court to be exact, can eliminate a preferred company's rivals. That's a huge problem. In explaining its decisions, the Canadian Supreme Court emphasized that its order was only a temporary injunction and that the worldwide order could be set aside once the underlying intellectual property dispute had been sorted out. So the rival is going to not only lose money, very possibly going bankrupt, but also lose their Google ranking as well, while waiting in perpetuity for the dispute to be settled. The dissenting judges, however, said the idea of further court proceedings was a fiction and that EQSTEC would just sit on the temporary order, effectively making it a permanent one.
I'm starting to wonder, and I've got this scenario in my head where, say, one country sues the other globally or whatever the fuck they're doing and doesn't acknowledge the American amendments and then wins. But what if the other company that is an American company countersues afterwards and it actually falls back on the US amendments because they acknowledge them? I mean, how is this going to play out? That's globalism, isn't it? It just won't work on multiple levels. Each country needs to run their own shit.
This is so screwed up. And the fact that Canada's Supreme Court actually believes that it rates so much that it can impose its own rulings on my country, they've got another thing coming. The judges also pointed out that Google was not a direct party to the dispute, which meant the situation called for judicial restraint, rather than subjecting the company to a worldwide order. The Canadian ruling comes at a time when some courts in Europe have ruled that Google must remove search results worldwide under so-called right-to-be-forgotten laws. Now, that's a completely different issue that may need to be covered in its own video. But hey, Suit, if you've got anything to add regarding this, please do so. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the right to be forgotten.
Right to be forgotten? They've got the right to go and get fucked.
In response to a request for comment about the Supreme Court ruling, a Google spokesperson told Fortune,
"We are carefully reviewing the court's findings and evaluating our next steps."
Meanwhile, the tech industry has reacted with alarm, warning the Canadian Supreme Court could lead to a new wave of global censorship.
Worldwide search result removal orders imposed by one country's court represent a SOPA-level threat to the open internet.
The Canadian ruling also illustrates the delicate balance U.S. tech giants face in trying to preserve free speech principles, while also obeying the particular laws of individual countries, such as anti-hate laws in Germany or blasphemy laws in Thailand. Yeah, and let's not forget recently, Pakistan asked Zuckerberg of Facebook to assist in identifying Islamic blasphemists, which has resulted in Taimur Raza being sentenced to death for his Facebook posts.
At some points, I just have no words.
For the most part, the companies have addressed the issue through so-called geofencing, or by developing versions of their website tailored to each country, such as Google.ca, which is where Google had argued the injunction in EQSTEC should only have applied. But recently, courts have become more emboldened to extend the national reach of those laws, triggering fears that citizens in one country will effectively be subject to the rules of others.
Oh yeah, we can really see this working out, can't we?
Hello, globalism, knocking at your door. It couldn't be any more clearer.
Canada joins the list of countries asserting global jurisdiction over the internet. Copyright, maybe RTBF people might share this, but there does need to be some limiting principle. For instance, I don't want the UK's crappy libel laws to de facto apply worldwide. Most countries don't have fair use, etc., etc.
Some groups, however, applauded the ruling. A spokesperson for Music Canada, which represents major recording labels, said in a statement that the new worldwide injunction will be a
vital remedy to address illegal online activities and enforce the rights of creators.
Imagine enforcing Sharia law globally.
Wednesday's ruling also comes a week after the Canadian Supreme Court dealt a big setback to another U.S. tech giant, Facebook. In the earlier ruling, the court said the social network could not invoke its terms of service to force a Canadian citizen to bring a privacy lawsuit in California rather than Canada. We have so many problems coming at us in so many different directions, but this one directly hits on various fronts, from globalism to violating free speech, enabling censorship, eliminating a preferred company's rivals, and the ability of a Supreme Court to intrude its rulings into other countries.
It is what globalism's ultimate goal is all about, ruling the globe with one law. People need to wake up.
Again, I want to thank Suit Yourself for doing this collaboration with me. It really means a lot being such a big fan.
You're very welcome, April. This was a very important subject, and I'm grateful that you covered it. You covered it really well. People need to go and subscribe to your channel.
Plus, it's a pretty good way to get one of my favorite accents talking back to me.
Strike!